Okay, so first of all, we're gonna present our members of our team: David Hernandez, which is me, Jiwon Chong, and George Sarofim, and we're going to present a very interesting case of Mount Everest summit on 1996. So the first question that we were gonna ask and answer is, why did Rob Hall didn't do the 2 p.m. turnaround the day of the push of the summit? And I want to start with this phrase of Rob Hall, which was, uh, my word will be absolute law when trying to pursue the summit." So basically stating that he was gonna be the key decision maker of his team. So Adventure Consultants was the name of his team, and we have some important key insights that are useful in order to understand and answer the question. The first one is a site from Krakauer, which was one of the members of Adventure Consultants expedition. He said Hall bragged in more than one occasion that he could get almost any reasonably fit person to the summit, and his record seemed to support this. The other one that already mentioned is "my word will be absolute law." It's important to note that the it was an 18-hour round trip from Camp 4 to the summit. As we can see in the image, Camp 4 was the last camp before attempt the summit. So basically, it was the last place where the teams could be and feel safe. It is difficult to turn someone around when they see the summit and think they're close. This is a phrase that Hall expressed, and shows the difficulty of taking good decisions and not succumbing to the known summit fever. There was also a limited oxygen tank supply for the adventure. And finally, the most important factor: Hall never declared any specific turnaround time, either 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. So basically, why did Rob Hall didn't decide to adhere to the plan and do a turnaround at 2 p.m.? The first point that and explains this decision was the emotional commitment with Doug Hansen in 1995. He could not summit with Hall expedition. Doug Hansen was a close friend of Rob Hall, and Rob felt responsibility for him not being able to complete Summit in 1995. So loyalty plays an important part of the game here, as Hall stayed at Summit waiting for Hansen well past 2 p.m. until 4 p.m. Another important factor for this decision making was not clear stating the 2 p.m. turnaround directive the morning of the summit attempt. So basically, here we see a pattern of ambiguity. As Hall expressed before, he was the one that was going to take the last calls and the last decisions when performing the attempt, but that morning he didn't clearly show or gave the directive of doing the 2 p.m. turnaround. And finally, another key factor that aimed for Rob's decision of not doing the 2 p.m. turnaround was external delays. The ropes were not fixed in order for the team to pass uh, one of the most important thresholds, and the climb also started late, 11:30 a.m. in the morning, when they were planning to depart far earlier. The second answer that we're gonna search for is why Scott Fischer kept pursuing the summit even though he was desperately sick. Basically, there was a recurrence of his chronic illnesses, and logistic problems affected Fischer's health. Due to logistical provisions failed, he could not do high altitude training in the best way possible. So he was not trained at the moment of the attempt, and also pressure to succeed in the medium. So why he kept pushing at the end? The final decision, in our opinion, it's a combination of three different dimensions. The first one was pride. This is a key factor because he previously had expressed that he always made the right calls, even under immense pressure, as the situation that he was encountering at the moment. Secondly, success. Fischer saw other expedition companies thrive in the business. He wanted to give Mountain Madness the same amount of recognition as, for example, Rob Hall's company recognition perception. And third, but not least, emotional investment. He decided to go back to Camp 2 with his friend Dale Kurz, even though the summit attempt had already begun. This is a factor that affected his judgment and urged him to attempt summit, even though he was desperately ill. And also, it made him surpass his very strict rule of a 2 p.m. turnaround. We consider that these three factors contributed to him feeling that he was able to attempt summit even though he was desperately ill.
Uh, okay, in order to continue what David was just saying, and specifically about like why they did the past 2 p.m. turnaround and these kind of things. So here we have something called the escalation of commitment, which is when someone continue a risky course of action just because they've already invested time, effort, resources, money, maybe even when it no longer makes sense. So it is a sunk bias or something called a sunk bias. So, for example, Rob Hall let Doug continue the climb despite signs of exhaustion and forced bite. He likely felt emotional tied to Doug, especially since he had to turn him back the previous year. So he wanted him to succeed this time. On the other hand, also ignored his own safety rule, which was the 2 p.m. Turnaround time already mentioned by my colleague, and he had to wait till 4 p.m. For Hansen to reach the summit, which was very dangerous and a very dangerous delay. Similarly, what we can also say is that Scott Fischer climbed despite being clearly unwell. He was driven by a need to prove himself and perhaps felt pressure to match Rob's whole success. So, both leaders were committed not to safety but to the summit. And that ultimately played a tragic role. And from here, we can see the outcome. So, uh, what to say. So now, why did they let this go this far? And why did we reach this outcome? So, first of all, there was a lot of emotional investment, obviously. So, there was pride, personal relationships, reputation on the line. For Hall, it was his promise to Hansen, while for Fischer, it was his proving his strengths. Secondly, financial and competitive pressure. So here we know that this is their business, this is their job. So for them, the more the ratio, the higher ratio of success of trips, the better business. So for them, turning back could mean unhappy clients, thus lost income. And lastly, but not least, when things started to fall apart, there wasn't clear system for making decisions, as well as there was no junior guide who was able to take to overrule the decision of his peers, so to override his leader. So this creates a situation where emotion overruled logic. It didn't have to end this way, and it could have been avoided. Obviously, there were ways that this could have been avoided, and it could have been ended in a different outcome. So, first and foremost, leaders need to stick to turnaround rules, to guidelines, no matter how emotionally they're involved or attached to the goal. The rule exists for a reason. So, second, teams should be structured in a way that allows juniors to overrule their senior leaders, specifically when risk is very high and the lives are endangered. So, that kind of accountability can specifically save lives in this specific case. Also, the whole expedition culture needs to shift from reaching the summit to reaching the summit safely. Other than that, we have to always having objective checklists to assess whether climbers are fit to continue, and that would definitely reduce the emotion-based calls. Finally, planning for shared decision making when the main leader is unwell or overwhelmed, that can prevent deadly mistakes, such as the one that happened in the case. And it's always about creating systems that values people over peaks.
Now I will discuss about two key questions from the Everest strategy, and specifically focusing on the decision-making bias and the possibility of the rational decisions under extreme conditions. So first, I will examine the key decision bias that affected Love, Hole, and the Scott Fisher. Next one, yeah. First one is the escalation of commitment. So, despite clear evidence suggesting a retreat, both leaders persisted due to significant investment of resources and reputation, making withdrawal psychologically difficult. And second is confirmation bias. Warren Fisher selectively focused on supportive information, neglecting critical warnings such as deteriorating weather and health conditions, creating a dangerous confirmation trap. And third one is overconfidence bias. Their extensive past success lead them to overestimate their capabilities and underestimate risks, impairing their judgment severely. And lastly, authority bias. Practical teams dynamics discourages open dialogue, preventing critical feedback and limiting effective decision making. Also, I was focusing about the differences between leaders and team members because leaders were more prone to escalation and overconfidence bias, but team members focus more on authority bias. So it's more hard to like choose which decision will be the perfect for the situation. Now I'm gonna address the feasibility of rational decision making under extreme conditions such as Everest. Extreme conditions like fatigue, hypoxia, and severe weather greatly impair cognitive function and exacerbate biases. However, rational decision making remains achievable by strictly applying structured mental models, clear design rules, and fostering psychological safety and open communication. To enhance decision making, leaders should strictly adhere to established turnaround times and employ structured decision frameworks and promote empowered decision making practice instead of relying solely on hierarchical control. Next, yeah. So, in conclusion, while rational decision making under extreme conditions is challenging, but through preparation and clear guidelines and adaptive leadership significantly enhance decision quality a lot. So we should focus on that. Thank you. We are the group five, maybe. And our group is David Hernandez and George and Jiwon. Yeah. Thank you.